many people, traveling for pleasure, taking time off, and escaping the daily grind is one of life's joys. In every country in the European Union, it's required. By law, people in the EU have at least 4 work weeks of paid holiday time. But the United States is the only developed country without legally mandated paid vacation. The result is that 1 in 4 Americans don't have a single paid day off. As people in the workforce age, not having time off can be detrimental. According to the Mayo Clinic, not taking time away from everyday stressors can increase the amount of the stress hormone known as cortisol in the body. That can speed up the aging process. In the United States, Americans are focusing more on leisure travel as they get closer to retirement. And a Boston-based nonprofit is helping their globetrotting dreams become a reality. Meet Francie Hayes. The 65-year-old deputy director for a DC-based nonprofit is also a self-proclaimed workaholic.
So I've been really active in my professional life, and that involves being fully engaged at work and with colleagues here in DC, colleagues all around the world.
In Francie's line of work, she has to travel often, usually to underdeveloped countries, and it's taken a bit of a toll over the years.
My identity was really tied up with my profession. I began traveling quite a bit, and that changed family dynamics because I'd be gone for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and I really valued that. And it had consequences, but at that point in my life, that was really, really important to me.
Francie is one of millions of people whose jobs require frequent travel.
What we do is we show how that, for the most part, society has tended to glamorize travel, particularly frequent travel, business travel.
Professor Scott Cohen is the co-author of a study in the UK that highlights the downfalls of recurring business travel.
And what we've done is we've shown the different ways in which that's glamorized, and then we've brought to the fore all the different darker sides of frequent travel that are physiological, emotional, psychological, that people rarely talk about. There is a disruption to the circadian rhythm that you get through frequent jet lag, and that has chronic effects when this builds over time. So it's not just taking 5 or 7 days to readjust to jet lag. There's also gene disruption that influences aging. There's chronic memory impairment. There's a higher risk of heart attack and stroke as well.
In addition are the emotional and psychological problems, mainly stress. Stressors like long hauls to other countries, inconvenient delays in departure times, and disrupted routines. According to a recent study, not all business travelers experience stress in the same way. Women experience higher levels of stress than men when on the road for business. Workers in the Asia-Pacific region reported the highest levels of travel stress, while people in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa had the least amount. And frequent business travelers had higher levels of stress than people who rarely traveled for work. Dr. Dana Weiner of Emory University says travel-related stress can disrupt other areas of life.
It can really affect us significantly. Looking at the symptoms of stress and the ways that it can interfere, you're looking at self-care. So how does it affect their ability to take care of their physical needs, nutrition, sleep? It also affects social relationships. When you're so focused on all of your own stressors, how can you be present with your family, with loved ones?
I have this conversation with my family members all the time, and I always make the argument, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, that there is good stress as well. I think I thrive on a little bit of stress.
To a certain degree, we need stress. Why would we get out of bed? Why would we do anything? How would we take on challenges? However, and what I notice in business folks that I work with, honestly across the board, is that there is this fantasy, okay, that the harder I work and the more that I just kind of almost like mentally beat myself up, the higher my performance is gonna go. In actuality, we have that point at which we fall off. It's just the fantasy.
Like many professionals, Francie spent much of her career living that fantasy. But now that she's nearing retirement, she says something has changed.
Something switched inside, which was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I loved doing it. I was wholly committed to it. But the time has changed. And it was something internal that switched, and it was a really different change in consciousness. As I embrace that more and more, the pulling back from work has been easier and easier.
67-year-old Louisa Matson is a psychologist in Washington, D.C. She's also a close friend of Francie's. The two women have known each other for nearly 60 years.
I definitely consider myself to be active. I play tennis 4 times a week. I do walking. I like to bike in the summer. Last year, I went on my 2nd horseback packing trip to Montana, which was quite rigorous.
Over the last decade, Louisa has added global travel to her active lifestyle through a nonprofit organization called Road Scholar. Mainly geared toward older adults, the program provides educational travel tours to different locations around the world. So far, Louisa has been on 6 Road Scholar adventures, including hiking in Death Valley and spending time in Costa Rica.
I had heard people say, as you're aging, travel in your 60s, because you just don't know how physically able you're going to be for how long. And it really was when I turned 60 that I did have the time and the energy and the sort of financial wherewithal to start traveling. I think as we age, we gain a lot of perspective and wisdom, and traveling just adds to the wealth of experiences that can inform our sense of selves and our sense of humanity and life.
Now, Louisa's adventure is taking her to the Italian countryside of Umbria. For the first time, she's bringing along her friend, Francie.
Louisa was the energy behind it, and she was the one who talked me into doing it. And the whole thing is the opportunity to detach from work. So personally, I hope to learn and to find ways of engaging outside my usual comfort zone in terms of meeting new people and really striking up conversations and not feeling restrained about doing that. Also handling what may be a few physical challenges, knowing I'll have to handle them and being okay with that.
When we come back, as Francie and Louisa head to Italy, we'll explore how leisure travel can affect heart health, possibly adding years.
Vacations and holidays are an excellent way to relieve stress. There's evidence that traveling for pleasure can also add years to your life. Research shows that men who didn't take annual vacations had a 30% higher chance of dying from heart disease. And women who didn't take vacations were more than twice as likely to suffer from depression as compared to other women. That's likely because activities associated with travel, like walking the beach, hiking national parks, or museum hopping, are good for our physical and cognitive functions. Best friends Louisa Matson and Francie Hayes explored the Italian countryside to see just how good an international getaway can make you feel.
Pick the truffle, just wash him, you just scramble it on the pasta.
Longtime friends Louisa Matson and Francie Hayes are on an adventure from the United States to the Italian countryside of Umbria through Road Scholar, a nonprofit organization that gives travelers educational tours to cities worldwide. This is Francie's first trip and Louisa's 7th.
Once you get to your location, you don't really have to think about anything, which is nice. You meet fascinating people who are on the trip. You get an educational experience. You feel cared for. It feeds the mind. It feeds the body in multiple ways.
I think the walking is what I really came for. And the vistas, the views are just so much better than anything I could imagine.
The president and CEO, James Moses, says most of their tours are geared toward adults in their 50s and older.
People have begun to understand that learning is a critical part of aging, and that staying engaged intellectually and socially, as well as physically, is critical to a healthy older age. It's not about the quantity of years, it's about the quality of years. And that's really what Rhodes Scholar has championed all this time. Lifelong learning, we think, is a critical element to a healthy older age.
Louisa and Francie are both in their mid-60s and are focusing on their health as they get closer to retirement. Louisa is an avid hiker and tries to stay as active as possible. Francie is shifting her priorities from work and leading a much more active lifestyle than she has in the past.
I think for 65 years, I took my good health for granted. And I've learned in the past year I can't do that. And I need to pay attention to my health. And a big part of health is physical health, strength, well-being. All that's really important.
The two women have set aside part of their time in Umbria for what's called adventure travel.
I love being active when I travel, and you just feel so good. You feel virtuous at the end of the morning after your hike, and then you can enjoy the food, and you feel, by the end of the trip, you feel healthier than when you began.
I think for me what's been especially wonderful is the hiking every morning, because the hiking really I have to be in the moment. I have to pay attention to where the path is going, what rock is going to be in the way for me to potentially trip over. And for me, the physical side always seemed like it was going to be a challenge, and I was a little bit concerned. All my concentration had to be used during the hiking, and there's nothing more in the moment.
Remaining physical, even when on vacation, is a large part of staying healthy and fit, especially as we age. But when you're on a big getaway, there are also potential cognitive benefits.
If we're talking leisure, it brings us into a novel situation. When do we do our best learning, right? It's when we're open, mindful. We're learning that we don't all operate the same way. We don't all operate according to the same set of rules. And when you come back home, you look at your own life differently, You've developed an appreciation for other people.
What impact do you think that sort of leisure time has on aging?
Our brains never stop growing. We're always developing. We can always learn. I think that was something that wasn't always believed, but now, right, we know so much more about neuroplasticity, the ways that we can develop new pathways, the ways that we can learn.
We asked Louisa how she thinks her travels have influenced her cognitive function over the years.
The benefits of travel are that it brings you right into the present moment, because everything is new. You literally don't know what's around the corner. And especially in Umbria, there's so many nooks and crannies and so many corners. So you're constantly in a state of unknowing, a state of surprise. And that really brings you into the moment. You feel more fully alive. It encourages you to have a mindset of openness and curiosity and wonder. One thing I'm promising myself this trip is, can I bring back that mindset to my daily life? So I'm not living in a kind of trance of making assumptions about the way life is. And this trip is definitely constantly breaking my assumptions, challenging them, and it's thrilling, really.
For Francie, her first big travel adventure marks a new era in her life, one that involves an appreciation for travel and its benefits to her health.
I've worked really hard. I've loved my work. But all of a sudden, there was something that turned inside me and said, okay, that chapter is not over, but the importance of it in terms of the priority has shifted. And this trip really meant more to me than just a trip, because it was a beginning, or it is a beginning.
Life can often get in the way of a much-needed holiday, but traveling and taking some time off means a healthier body and mind. When you do travel, walk around during long flights to reduce the risk of blood clots. Stay hydrated and try your best to eat some healthy meals. For Vital Signs, I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
My name is Shrin Madapalli. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Accomable. I have a condition called spinal muscular atrophy. It's a genetic condition that I was born with. So essentially it means that I don't have much use of my arms and legs. I use a powered wheelchair for mobility, and I need the help of care assistants around the clock. As a wheelchair user, I was generally quite scared of traveling for most of my life. Up until I was the age of sort of 24, 25, I hadn't really ever traveled beforehand. Back in 2010, I took 6 months off to go traveling around the world, and it was my first experience of traveling as a disabled person. And it was an incredibly eye-opening experience in the sense that it was really difficult, researching where to go, finding suitable properties, finding suitable transport, the whole host of things that I needed was really hard to find. And yeah, things did go wrong, but I managed to get through it in the end and had an amazing time. And ever since that, I've loved to travel as much as I can, and I've been desperate to try and make it easier. So we came up with the concept of Accomable last year, me and my friend Martin, who started the company with me. So we thought we could try and create a platform where we could find adapted properties from all around the world, vet them, and just make travel so much easier. We think this idea is innovative because we are trying to help a customer segment that just really has been underserved for many years and is often ignored by mainstream websites. So one of the first key things at the very beginning is to make sure the entrance is accessible. We find that a lot of properties do have a bit of a step to get in or a bit of a lip, but as you can see, it's practically flat to get in here. I am probably the toughest customer in the sense that I am building a product for myself. If it doesn't work for me, it's not something that I can ask other people to use. And I do think when you build something when you are also the customer, it allows you to get into the mind of a user far more easy and make sure that you can concentrate and focus on all aspects of the experience and make sure the product is as suitable as possible for your user. So as you can see in this room, space is quite nice. I can turn around without any issue. The other reason space is important is that I bring this piece of equipment with me called a lifting hoist. This is what's needed in order to pick me out of my chair and lift me into the bed. You'll find that when we're looking for properties, it's probably the bathroom that has the greatest level of variability. So we'd call this a roll-in shower, or sometimes it's called a wet room. A wheelchair user can either just wheel directly into the shower, or they can unfold this shower seat and transfer onto it. So this would be a bathroom that has a really good level of access and would be something very easy for me and a lot of other disabled people to use. We have a lot of big things coming up at the moment. We are in the final stages of closing a substantial investment round. We are also in the process of expanding our property portfolio through partnerships with HomeAway, where they will allow us access to their database of properties. We'll vet them and be able to list the properties which have been adapted on our site. We're also looking to branch out into other types of services. Some of our users need medical equipment, they need specialized transport. We're trying to form partnerships with other vendors of these services and bring them onto the Accomable platform. It's an incredible feeling to know that we are helping anybody, whether it's 1 million people or just one person. I think we try very hard to remind ourselves of this. It can sometimes be difficult because my team and I work really hard, we work around the clock. But we do try to make sure we remember that people have used our product and have enjoyed their trips. Success for Accomable would be when what we're trying to solve is no longer a problem. Travel for somebody with a mobility need or with a disability would no longer be something that would concern someone. It would be just a simple few-click process, book somewhere, go wherever you want, and travel would be just like how it would be for anybody else. When accessible travel is no longer actually a need or a problem, then we know we would have accomplished our goal.
at Beijing's Ritan Park. Stroll these paths and you'll catch a glimpse of the ordinary and a chance to encounter what today's travellers seem to prize above all else, that authentic experience. Exactly what does that mean, you may well ask? It means different things to different people, as our experts made clear. Mei Zhang is the chief executive and founder of the Beijing-based travel company Wild China.
Authenticity in Chinese, we call it 原汁原味, which means unaltered, unchanged, the way it's in its natural state.
Robert Shepard, anthropologist and China specialist at the George Washington University.
Authenticity implies the unexpected, the out of the ordinary, and the unplanned.
Jason Clampett, co-founder and head of content for Skift, the travel research and intelligence platform.
Authenticity is about familiarity and access. It's about being able to see a destination on your own terms.
For me, authenticity means Sunday afternoon in this park. The chance to look and listen and see how ordinary people live their everyday lives. This is a local experience. There are few other travellers around.
If your travel experience gives you much more in-depth learning, I think it makes it more authentic. The more contacts you have with someone who is of the local area, the more authentic your travel experience is likely to be.
With authenticity, there's no one-size-fits-all checklist. Once we leave the tranquility of the park, it all becomes so much more complicated. The whole issue of authenticity is fraught with difficulties. This is traditional pastry stretching, but here it's being done in the street fair for the tourists. So is it authentic? And the same with making these sweets and delicacies, banging the bejeebies out of them. But here it's being done for the benefit of the crowd.
When you look at sort of the roots of modern travel in the 20th century, you find two things. You find this complete distancing of something called travel from tourism. People who see themselves as travelers are the ones who like to point out that tourists are not having authentic experiences, whereas travelers supposedly are the heroic ones who go off on their own.
Our experts agree. People are willing to pay more if they believe they're having an authentic experience.
I think people do seek a deeper experience when they go to a destination. I think that's a reaction to some of the homogenation of the world that's taken place. If you look at the catalogs that come from the tour companies, if you look at the stories that hotel brands are trying to tell, experiential is definitely still part of it, but authentic is really the next phase.
Sift through all the marketing catchphrases. It turns out whether or not something is really authentic depends mostly on you and me. How we experience a place, who we meet there, and what we hope to take with us when we leave. It would be remiss to come to China and not mention the numbers. Even amidst the economic uncertainty here, the number of outbound Chinese travellers is remarkable. 120 million international trips taken in 2015. And the forecast for just 4 years' time, 200 million. If you're thinking, I've heard all this before, consider another part of the equation. China has now surpassed the United States to become the #1 business travel market in the world by its own domestic strength. More than $290 billion spent on meetings, hotels, and airline tickets. It's not only in Beijing and Shanghai. It's in what we call the real everyday China, so-called second-tier cities like Xi'an. Both both United Airlines and Hainan, China's biggest after the three state-owned carriers, see strategic advantage in growing in Xi'an.
So we are talking about 5, 6, 7 million population. So the point-to-point demand is huge. We have nearly 30% of market share in Xi'an, so that means Xi'an is a viable hub for Hainan Airlines.
It's not just a hub, it's an opportunity for a new kind of route, connecting secondary cities in China non-stop to major international gateways.
Well, we flew from Xi'an to Rome, to Paris, to Sydney. We flew from Chongqing to Rome, and we flew from Changsha to Los Angeles.
And then you do the reverse. You take a primary Chinese and you attach it to a non-traditional destination. For Hainan Airlines, one of the driving forces is the Chinese government's one route, one airline rule for Chinese carriers flying overseas. Because Hainan can't fly from Beijing to London or Los Angeles, it's adding non-stop service from the Chinese capital to places like Manchester, England, and Calgary. To make these new routes to secondary, smaller cities economically viable, Hainan, along with all other airlines, is using brand new planes like the 787 Dreamliner, which gives much better fuel economy. On the ramp at Xi'an Airport, United Airlines' Walter Dias tells me even as China's economy slows, the long-term prospects remain robust.
There's no other market in the world growing as fast as this one. The sky is the limit for opening new cities in China.
This year, United is launching non-stop service from its San Francisco hub to Xi'an and Hangzhou. It's already flying the Dreamliner direct to Chengdu. Where did the idea of secondary cities come from?
The coastal cities were doing very well, but the West wasn't doing well, and so China wanted to invest in the West. So when we saw that, we started very carefully monitoring the economic activity in the second-tier cities in the interior.
What's fascinating about this is you weren't just looking at traffic flows.
I think definitely you have to have a strong local market in these secondary cities. Essentially, when you start them out, they're going to really rely on local on this side.
And with China forecast to overtake the United States as the world's largest passenger market by the year 2029, neither United nor Hainan see any reason to slow down. As we continue, the hotel brands you've probably never heard of.
Hey, what's up? Are you here for check-in?
How the travelers' cravings for authenticity is now reshaping an entire industry. A ride on a modern bike along a 6 centuries-old wall. It's the sort of experience that millennials absolutely adore. Being millennial is more than just an age, it's also a mindset. Now, looking forward, there's an entire industry dedicated to giving millennials the experiences they seek and adore.
It's known as the Wild Great Wall. Lush, unrestored, and relatively untouched. The perfect opportunity for this group of Beijing college students to escape their books and reconnect with nature.
Last Friday, I just finished my thesis defense, and now I feel like it's the right time to go out and have some fun.
English Lit major Iris Chang describes herself as a 20-something millennial.
Being rebellious, being new, being creative, being different.
When it comes to travel, that means Iris typically doesn't go with the crowd, though she's willing to pay for a tour if it delivers something unique.
Yunling is like connecting.
Yunya Wang may look like one of the college crowd, but this is her weekend gig, and she's being paid to lead our trek.
I want to bring all the wild nature and beautiful things to all the people around me. Because, wow, Beijing is not all traffic, not pollution.
An avid hiker, Yunya's trip is one of dozens available on a mobile travel platform called New You Go, a new venture aimed specifically at tech-crazed Chinese millennials.
It's a marketplace for authentic travel experiences.
CEO and founder Mei Zhang says she's built the business around providing access. It works by connecting young travelers with local personalities they wouldn't necessarily be able to find on their own. tofu makers, rice farmers, or in this case, an amateur botanist.
If you just exactly deliver their expectation, deliver their stereotyped image, they're like, oh, okay, no surprises. What would impress these people? What would make them wow? Create this wow moment in this young generation.
The real wow moment comes when we finally reach the wall, trading the well-worn path for the adventure of climbing and crawling through a crumbling watchtower some 500 years old.
You can see the wall is really steep and all the bricks are like broken. It was built in the Ming Dynasty and nobody touched it.
When I used to see the Great Wall was stuck, full of people. But today the Great Wall really reminds me of the history, what it was like.
Everybody crowd in, ready? 1, 2.
Not bad. Let's post it, the group says. But it turns out WeChat and Instagram will have to wait. What could be more authentic when it comes to stepping back into history than no cell service? David Molko, CNN, on the wild Great Wall of China.
Battling my way through the thousands of selfie-snapping tourists, what a reward. A view like nowhere else in the world. Breathtaking. Ironic that one of the country's richest cultural sites is simply one man's fantasy. An entire fake army created to guard his final resting place and to follow his spirit into the afterlife. Most visitors must be content to gaze upon the soldiers from afar. Our guide takes us into what's known as Pit 1, a strange sensation like stepping back in time as I come face to face with row after row of warriors.
You can see the armor, this one and that one, you can see that is different.
From rank to hairlines to facial features, no two statues are exactly alike. And the archaeologist Shen Mao Sheng can spot every detail.
I'm a little student. When I come here, I say, amazing, too much. Yeah, it's so amazing.
The whole thing was an accidental discovery. The story goes that the first statue was unearthed in 1974 by a farmer digging a well. This clay army, believed to be just one small part of the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor to unify China. Historians say he was a brutal leader and even killed some of the 700,000 craftsmen who toiled to build all this.
I think he's a great man. You know, we think even though in the history they said he was very cool, but we think he did many good things for China.
Mr. Shen has dedicated his life to piecing together what might very well be the world's largest jigsaw puzzle. Few of these terracotta soldiers, the archers, the horses, are uncovered intact. Do you ever get frustrated?
Yeah. Sometimes I get it, but sometimes I'm very excited about it. One example is I just see one finger. It's broken more than 200 pieces. When I put them together, I cried.
It can take more than 3 months to restore just one warrior. A daunting thought when you consider the vast majority of the site remains buried nearby. From the statuesque tranquility of the terracotta warriors to the absolute chaos of Xi'an's street food fair. In this part of China, enjoying food is not just a necessity, it's a right. This enjoyment of food spans the country, including the capital, Beijing. I've come to the market to see what locals have to choose from. Having a guide helps eliminate some of the guesswork. And there's none better than the chef and food writer Fuchsia Dunlop.
This is chunya, the tender spring shoots of the Chinese tun tree.
Tun tree.
So it's a cooling vegetable. So if you have too much internal heat, in Chinese medicinal terms, eat kugua and that'll sort you out. They don't really want to come out. This is a loach, which have very slippery and tender flesh. In Chinese, the sensation is called ma, which is the same word as pins and needles and anesthesia.
It's not even lunchtime, but in the cavernous kitchens of Chuanban, run by the Sichuan provincial government, the chefs are turning up the heat. How significant is the food component of a trip in realizing an authentic experience?
I think if we say an authentic experience involves sort of in some way entering into the real lives of people in a place, food is central to everybody's lives. I mean, I think there are certain challenges in looking for really authentic local food. First among them is language. Apart from that, how do you order? You have to have a mastermind who arranges a selection of dishes that will be a harmonious whole.
Good grief. What have you ordered? Give me a rough idea.
This is cold pork in a garlicky sauce with chili oil and sweet soy sauce. The bamboo pith fungus from the forests of southern Sichuan with egg. Now this one is for the texture. Goose intestines in a spicy sauce. Lovely and slithery and rubbery.
Across town, the kitchen is cramped and the chaos reaches new heights. This is also authentic Sichuan cooking of a different type. Any similarity with the government-run operation that I've just come from stops with the spices.
The name of the restaurant, Jiang Mamai, it's like food like your granny would make. Ironically, as young Chinese people are cooking less and less, there's this real appetite for authentic home-style cooking.
Cheap and cheerful. This dish is called sad noodles, supposedly named because they're so hot they make you cry. I think I'll avoid the chilies.
So quail leg, chicken feet skin, chicken gristle, a couple of kinds of tofu.
What's the rule of the road if you do want to try and eat authentically?
Well, I guess just be open-minded and keep your eyes open and be willing to try new things. If you really want to experience China, then you just have to try some real Chinese food.
一座铁桥，一条黄河，一眼望穿兰州数千年的沧桑与辉煌。黄河之水天上来，来到了兰州呢，也让兰州成为中国大陆唯一一个黄河流经市区的省会城市。而现在又多了一股活水，也就是呢，让这个“一带一路”的起点能够加强投资开发，成为外资和台商的摆渡人。纵山千里路，黄沙吹不尽岁月，又要吹起兰州新的一页。可等到了风水轮流转。10年河东，10年河西，这一回终于攀到河西走廊的起点兰州。滩头堡在湖北武汉的长飞光纤集团，尽管中国电信、中国移动、中国联通3大订单满满在手，还是不辞千里来兰州落脚，为的是光纤和光缆的产销量连续20年产量全国第一、全球第一，也想要在中亚和欧洲市场稳坐老大。掐指一算啊，这得跟时间赛跑。
我们呢到兰州建厂呢，它这个第一大优势是我们更加接近这个客户。现在呢，我们的光缆呢是要从我们武汉总部运过来的话，可能得3天或者4天才能运到。那么现在呢，我们就当天就能够把货呢就送到这个客户手上了，这样客户就反应就更快一些啊。
打铁要趁热，兰心钢铁比谁都懂的。从福建福州翻山越岭，兰州扎根，看中的也是银根。 兰州新区对各方企业好汉广发英雄帖，像兰新钢铁的用电优惠，来自刘家峡水坝的水力发电，一度呢只要人民币4毛钱，约台币2块钱，而且采用的是阶梯式用电，用越多啊越便宜。沿海土地你有钱也买不起，这里呢1亩只要7万人民币，约新台币35万，加上盛产铁矿石，贴实地利人和，8字一算真合。数千年前，张骞通西域，打开了西部的大门。如今黄沙仍犹在，不闻当年驼铃响。要把“一带一路”的声威打响，从兰州前进大西北的乌鲁木齐、哈萨克，挥军中亚的伊朗、土耳其，再横跨欧洲的俄罗斯、意大利，可得让更多的现代张骞甘愿踏破铁鞋来异乡。虽然兰州新区台商还没有插旗，却在兰州人的打牙祭闻到了商机。兰州人的一天从牛肉面开始，因为一大早的第一锅牛肉汤叫做头汤，汤头最香，也让兰州人一大早啊就爱吃牛肉面。大街边椅子当桌子，2个人就桌对开吃。吃牛肉面呢，兰州人很懂门道，怎么吃出一口好牙呢？却恐怕不知道。
基本上选民健保给付的话，其实大部分都不会等到看牙痛的那一天才去看牙。
他们通常都是到牙齿不能用了，他们才不得已才要做假牙。
这是兰州唯一一家台商投资的牙科医院，牙医都是台湾跨海而来。天下第一关就是要让兰州人镇守牙关。这一湾黄河黄是兰州人最爱的母亲，这一抹兰州蓝是兰州人最骄傲的特产。现在的兰州人抬头挺胸，向全世界挥手。
It's a new day here in the hills of central Sardinia, Italy. And here, it begins with a shot of caffeine. But this is no ordinary village. Tiana is one of a cluster of villages, some 2 hours away from the capital, Cagliari, where the longevity of its residents has become a global phenomenon.
The low levels of depression that we see in them are not due to them living some idyllic Shangri-La type life up in the mountains, with lots of butterflies and birds singing. This sort of idea about sort of a rural existence. There's something about this population, their lifestyle, which gives them a resistance to the normal knocks that older people have in later life.
So a lot of research is now looking at sort of social relationships and how social networking, avoiding loneliness, for example, can help somebody live a longer life. It isn't just food and exercise, which is important. The social world we live in is really important.
Human being can't be alone. Since we are born, we do have social contacts. Since we are born, we are part of a system, actively part of a system. And maintaining this status is fundamental, because if you are involved with many activities, physical or cultural activities, it means that also your mind is more efficient. This is maintained in the late lifespan. And this is quite crucial.
Ancora mi sento giovane e speriamo, se non a 113, arrivare al secolo, ai 100 anni. Speriamo.
典雅的低楼层建筑用草坪绿地隔出栋距，附近有河景、有公园，离伦敦市中心也不远，大约7、8公里的路程。这栋银发族公寓的位置可以说是闹中取静。来看看室内装潢，每一户公寓都经过精心设计，宽敞的走廊让轮椅族移动方便。 客厅还有厨房的家具整套配好，每一个房间都有采光通风，还有私人阳台眺望美景。一房一厅售价大约2200万台币，2房的话要大约3000万台币。这还不是有钱就住得起，必须要年满55岁才有资格入住。
That is the truth. I really do think that's the way that I feel.
英国婆婆说，能入住时髦的银发公寓像中乐透，而日本这栋养老院才真的是每天都在玩乐透。阿公阿嬷做完体操就能获得代币，到了特定时间，大厅就会变成赌场。扑克牌、麻将桌、吃饺子、老虎机台摆出来，养老院变赌城，说是有助于增加大脑的血液灌流量，降低失智症的发病风险。而在失智症这个议题，荷兰的长照看护做法就很前卫。这里有一个小村叫做侯格威村，是一个阿兹海默症患者的专属社区。护理人员都穿便服同住，可能扮成店员，也可能是路人。社区的四周盖围墙，与世隔绝，患者的一举一动都受到监视。有人说这里像是楚门的世界，但对于失智老人来说，这里也是一个零危险的安全社区。
小 baby 被爷爷抱在怀里，听他唱着歌，安心的入睡。
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, buddy.
从商场上退休后，在偶然的一个机会下，大卫到亚特兰大这间儿童医院当起了志工。他在这里的工作就是给这些早产的小 baby 爱的抱抱，因为根据研究，拥抱有助于平稳早产儿的情绪，进一步促进他们吸收营养、健康成长。只是大卫没有想到，这一抱就抱了12年。
Reward you can get from holding a baby like this. It's been wonderful because it gives me something to do that has meaning to it.
He's just a really special person to us as nurses, and our babies just adore him.
代替忙碌的家长照顾宝宝，让他们能够平安长大。大卫爷爷一双温暖的手，已经成了院里不